Welcome back, everybody, to the Barely Bushy Podcast. It has been an eternity since I have done something like this. I kind of took a small break to focus on graduation from college, which luckily I was able to do. So now I have nothing else to do with my life besides work. So now let's jump back into the podcast. I'm joined by a special guest today. She goes by the name Beans, or Beans on Toast on social media. She is a Twitch streamer and YouTuber, around 13,000 followers on Twitch and just under 10K subs on YouTube and climbing. So, go subscribe to her channel, watch her videos, like the channel's up. Welcome to the show, Beans. I'm glad that you're able to give me your time.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, of course. And I'm going to switch it up already, even though what we talked about pre-recording. In case you people don't know who she is and know anything about Beans, she does have Tourette. So I just kind of want to ask you about that firsthand, to also give the audience, sort of a I don't want to say like a warning because that sounds a little rude, but kind of a heads up about, the rest of the show when certain ticks might happen that we're just going to kind of keep going. So, if we can kind of start off with that, is it something that for you has kind of been lifelong? Because I personally don't know much about that. Or is it something that like, in your early years or middle school or high school that you were diagnosed? Like if you kind of enlighten me and the audience on sort of what Tourette's is and kind of how you found out that you had it.
Yeah, so for me, I've had it since I was really small, like maybe 5. Like the first one that I remember my parents telling me about was when I was around age 5, and we were walking outside of a supermarket, and I was holding both of my parents' hands, and I just went, "It's windy," and they were like, why
Call
is
off
my
guard.
5-year-old cussing like this, like cussing like a sailor? And it was especially concerning because I had weather girl at kindergarten the next day, so they were kind of concerned about how that was going to go
Oh,
down.
yeah.
But yeah, sort of things like that are a lot of my tics. I used to think that I was just very fidgety and impulsive. So I went actually a really long time without being diagnosed, even though my Tourette's is severe. But I was diagnosed when I was 16, almost 17, I believe, or maybe I just turned 17. Um, yeah, but I've had it since I was about 5.
Wow. So you had it for about 10-ish years before like you had an official diagnosis. Like your parents
Yeah.
knew, but it wasn't official until you were 16. So sort of, I guess, kind of staying with that, is it something that you felt, I guess, up until now has sort of held you back in any way, especially, when you're doing streaming and YouTube and Twitch and all this stuff, it's something that if people aren't aware of in any way, they could be a little caught off guard. So is it something that you felt has held you back in any sort of way? Maybe not necessarily now, but in your building up or in life, like how has it kind of held you back, if at all?
I mean, I think in streaming, definitely when people, I'm a smaller streamer, so when people come in, especially if they don't know what Tourette's is, they can be kind of confused. And a lot of people, like new people, will actually say, "Hey, can you stop making that noise? Or can you stop like twitching around because it's really annoying?" And it makes me think like, there's probably a lot of people who like pop in but don't stick around because they're annoyed by
Yeah,
it. So
I know what
there's
you're saying.
that. In terms of like outside of streaming, growing up, like it was I'm a very outgoing person, so I was good at making friends, but at the same time a lot of people kind of thought I was really weird because I would say odd things, or I would like, make odd movements and things like that. So I didn't necessarily, I don't know, I had a weird sort of social standing, but I didn't let it bother me. So it did hold me back, but at the same time I kind of didn't let it, like it didn't really bother me too much. um yeah, I would say it's more been an issue like as I get into doing things like driving. Like I don't really drive a lot now because it can be kind of dangerous for me. Um, but yeah, other than that, like it sounds really like weird to me to say that it's held me back. But if I really do think about it, like in a lot of ways it has. But it also is just kind of like the way that things have been for me. So I don't really think of it like that. Like I don't sit there going like, oh man, this sucks.
Yeah,
It's nothing like
yeah.
that.
No, I feel what you're saying. It's something that because you kind of knew about it for a while, or at least your parents did, you kind of just live with it. It's kind of the same thing of like, if you're
Mm.
an athlete who has asthma, like in a way it could hold you back, but at the same time you're
Yeah,
aware
like
of it.
technically it is, but at the same time it's like, well, I can't change it. I feel like almost because I was diagnosed really late, that kind of helped because I was just sort of like, oh, I guess I'm really impulsive and weird. Like,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
I guess I'll just move on with life. But yeah, there were a couple times where I was just like, this is beyond impulsivity. Like, well, I would just never say something like that, or like, things of that nature. So I don't know. I don't know how I didn't realize earlier, but
Yeah,
like, yeah,
yeah. It was different than like if you have ADHD, you're kind of all over the place and running around. But at the same time, like people know, like okay, like there's you can just take medicine to kind of settle someone down for a bit. So like it was beyond that, is what you're saying. Like you
yeah.
you knew that it wasn't just you couldn't sit around for a little bit. Like there was something more to that. So before we kind of move on to your streaming and YouTube thing, I guess sort of one question about that before we move on would be, is there anything else, for people out there who may have Tourette's or maybe, trying to figure that whole world out? Is there anything that you'd want to tell them in terms of how to sort of help them handle it out? Or maybe they're like you, like they want to stream and make videos, but they're worried about the outward appearance or people making comments. Cause as we know, people are very rude and cruel out there. So, that could hold a lot of people back from pursuing something like content creation because they're worried about what they think. Obviously, you said you're a super outgoing person. So, and you come across as someone that I've just met as like, people will say things, but you're doing you're living life and you understand
Yeah.
everything. But not everybody's that
Yeah.
way. So if someone has Tourette's or is dealing with that and wants to get into this field, is there anything that you'd want to tell them if they were to watch, just to kind of encourage them or help them, get over that hump or fear of people making comments or reaction videos in a rude way and sort of in that realm?
Well, yeah. I mean, it is kind of like upsetting at first to be on the internet and have people react in any sort of way to it. So what for me, what I first did was when I first started streaming, I never used a face cam because
Mhm.
I was really insecure about some of my facial tics because they would make me make really weird faces. Um, so I think building confidence that way can be really helpful, even if you're like really scared to like turn on your mic in video games, that sort of thing. Try like start out with something like that, like building confidence and like, you know, building the ability to be able to tell people when they're taken aback by it. Oh, I have Tourette's, maybe explain it a little bit.
Yeah.
Um, that can be really helpful because like at this point, it doesn't even really phase me when someone's like, what you doing, because I know why I'm doing it and I have a reason for it. If you're undiagnosed as well, it can be kind of hard because you're like, I don't know if what this is. So if you can get diagnosed, that also does help. But in general, like once you start streaming or start content creating, me personally, I edit a lot of my ticks out. But sometimes they can be, kind of funny too. So if I find one that's funny, I'll keep that in. So they don't have to be something that necessarily takes away from what you're doing. They can also add to it in some ways. Um, but yeah, while I'm streaming, a lot of people in my chat already know about it. So if someone new comes in and doesn't understand, they can explain it. I have a chat bot that, especially on days where I'm having really bad ticks, I'll, put a specified message that comes up every so often so that people can see it and know what's going on. So yeah, there's a couple different ways you can sort of cushion yourself from it, but ultimately there's going to be situations where you have to explain it or you have to explain yourself, and you also have to accept that there's going to be some people who don't understand and may just not vibe with that.
Yeah. Unfortunately, in today's day and age, like no matter how much you explain, no matter how much a person understands, they're gonna say and do things because they think it's funny. They think that they can make a quick buck or a quick video off of
Yeah,
making
suck
a
off.
rude comment to someone who, is dealing with something that they can't really control. And so it's unfortunate, but like you said, you got to start somewhere. Like you shouldn't necessarily allow something that you have to fully hold you back from what you love to do. Like if you love to do it, start off slow, like you said, not necessarily a face cam. Maybe you do some editing, but I also love how you said that sometimes you use what you have to your advantage. Like if something comes up and you're like, oh, that fits in well with what I'm wanting
Yeah,
to do, I'm going
even
to
if it's
keep that
something
in.
as simple as like someone says something that could be interpreted as a sexual innuendo, and then I have a winking tech and then zooming in on the wink, things like that. Like it doesn't have to be like a big deal, but you also don't have to censor it completely, you know?
Yeah, no, that is for sure. And I wanted to
Hmm.
open up sort of this episode with that. A lot of mainly out of respect for you, so that way, people wouldn't be watching or listening and making comments and confused. But also to kind of make awareness for it, because I do think it's something that not I think a lot of people know what it is, like at its base level, but they don't fully understand it, me included. And so being able to kind of have more insight into that and how you can help and how you can do different things, I feel like is a conversation that's good to start at any level. Because there's so much about everything in this world that we don't know. And like if you were to ask me or all my friends, we don't know anybody that has Tourette's or anybody that deals with it. And so having this conversation, I think, will help them a lot. And also, if you're just listening to the audio of this and you were to hear random things in the background, I wanted to make that aware for
Yeah.
people, like that they're not just like, well, why is Beans cutting him off for like no reason? Like, no,
Yeah.
like I wanted to get that started.
Mm.
But obviously we talked about having these things and being into content creation. So for you, when did you decide, or how did you decide that you wanted to get into streaming and YouTube, knowing that you had Tourette's and that there will be judgment, people will make comments? What, I guess, age range, or was there something that you saw online that you were like, that's what I want to do with my life? Like, how did you get into content creation despite having Tourette's and the fear of people, judging you for what you have?
Mm. Well, I mean, I had been playing video games my whole life, but mostly offline because um, I was very, very, very afraid of talking to people online, like
Yeah,
to the
I see what
point
you're
where
saying.
I think I remember the first time I ever went into an Overwatch game and could even hear people on mic. I was like sweating profusely and shaking, and like I don't have social anxiety, but like I guess I did kind of used to, just because I was like, I don't know what to say. I don't know what I'm going to say. I
Yeah,
don't know what I might
it
say without meaning to.
it's
Yeah.
it's it's weird because you don't know any of these people,
Yeah.
and it's online, and obviously you can't. I mean, you could, but it wouldn't go well. But you're not gonna like turn your mic like, "Hey guys, I have Tourette's," because then that just opens up
Yeah.
the
That opens
floodgates
up
for
the door to
judgment.
people
Yeah,
very yeah.
yeah,
Yeah,
exactly,
that's
and you
not
don't
what
want
you
to do
do
that.
ever.
No,
So yeah, once I started doing that, I feel like that helped me build a lot of confidence and a lot of like I don't know quite how to say it, but like make me less of a coward, sort of. Um, and I did that for a while, and I met a lot of people through online games. And one of the people that I met was my friend who's a streamer, Silver Fox. And he played a lot of Overwatch, and a lot of times I would be playing Overwatch with him. And it was like a small little community where we all sort of hung out and played Overwatch, and he would stream it so that everyone could kind of be in on the fun. Um, and a lot of people, including him, were kind of confused at first when I first was in Discord rather than in game, because in game I use push to talk, but in Discord I don't really use push to talk, because I want to use the same button in game. So it's
yeah,
just
and
like, yeah, it
for
doesn't
people
work.
for people who don't know, you mind explaining real quick what that means? Push to talk and not
Yeah,
push to talk.
so basically, what push to talk is, if you don't play games, is where you can mute yourself with the click of a button. Um, or rather, if you click and hold the button, then you can speak, and as once you let go, you're muted again. So you're pushing when you're talking. And the reason that was helpful was because if I'm having tics, I don't have to be on mic, but I also don't have to be constantly muting and unmuting myself. So whenever I want to say something, I can just click and hold the button, and I can say what I want to say. So that was really useful for making friends and decreasing my anxiety. But once I started getting in Discord calls with people, they would be kind of confused as to why I was like, making all these noises. And this was like a little bit before I got diagnosed. I think I was starting to learn about what Tourette's was, but I
It
wasn't
wasn't
really
official.
yeah,
You
I was
couldn't
sort
go
of
on and be
like
like, "This is
I
what I
was kind
have."
of like unofficially diagnosed with Tourette's
Yeah,
at this time. So I would just tell people, yeah, those are, tics. Like I can't really control those. But a lot of people still were like really confused because there would be new people coming into streaming, like, what's that sound in the background? So my first stream that I ever did was actually just me playing Valheim and like talking to a bunch of my friends that I had made, and like explaining why I make weird sounds all the time and explaining to them what Tourette's was. I think I was maybe like 16, 17 at the time. So like, like about to get my diagnosis as
yeah,
well. I think I did that stream a little bit after I got my diagnosis. Um, because I understood better what it was as well. So I was like, hey guys,
yeah. You could explain to them, "This is what's
yeah.
happening." Yeah,
Yeah. Um, and yeah, that was my first ever stream. Um, but I kind of enjoyed it and wanted to do more of it. And I kind of just continued doing it from there as a way to play single player games, not alone, because I had issues with playing horror games because I'm really fearful.
Oh yeah, I get that.
Yeah.
And plus like it's that thing where like you said, like you're an outgoing person. So like you want, even if they're not in the room, just the presence of somebody to kind of talk to or ask a question or say stuff
Yeah.
to, even if it's just you playing by yourself.
Yeah. And my friends liked to watch me get scared too. So that
Oh,
worked out.
it's golden content all around.
Yeah. So yeah, I did that for I think maybe a year. And on the side, because obviously I wasn't getting a lot of money from that, I was doing something called ePal, which used to be this service where people would, pay you to play games with you and that play games with them and that sort of thing.
I've
And
never heard of that.
yeah,
I've never heard of
that's
EFOW.
actually where I met Dawn, funnily enough.
Oh, okay, I
Yeah.
got you. And for
So
those who don't know, I'll link his channel down below. But
yeah, Don
Don
Stever
Stever, yeah.
was basically the reason I had any sort of like exposure around this time, and that was what sort of kickstarted me going, oh, I can actually like, do this as like a serious hobby instead of just something I do for fun with friends. Like I can actually,
Capitalize on it.
yeah, I can like
Monetize it. Yeah,
I can reach more people. I can like, I
for
have
sure.
like some sort of like push here. Yeah, and so it's been a year since then, and here I am now.
There you go. And I think it's really cool what you're doing because I think that there are, we talked about a little bit earlier, but a lot of people who have things like they have Tourette's or similar things where, maybe they have something on their body or their face that they're really self-conscious about, or things that they do that they love content creation, they love YouTube streaming, whatever, but they're scared to do it.
Mm.
And you're kind of a cool show to people of like, yes, this thing happened, but don't let that hold you back. Like, are people going to
Mhm.
say their things and, make their videos or whatever? Like, of course, but that shouldn't be the reason that you
Dogs.
drop out of doing what you love. Like you love doing this. This is what you want to do. And I think it's so cool that you're able to do that. And obviously there's going to be nerves and there's going to be a nervous kind of break to it at first, because you log on and if you're streaming or if you're making a video, even like this video will probably get like less than 100 views, but you got to start somewhere. Like you just got to hop on and just kind of go with it. So I think it's really cool that you're able to do that. And I've never heard of ePal. I think that's awesome that you met people through that. I don't know. Is that even still a thing? Is that even still?
It is. It's kind of like changed since then though, so I don't really do it as much now. Um, but yeah, it used to be a really cool way to meet new people. Um, but yeah, it's changed a lot, but it is still functionally the same thing.
Mhm.
It's just a place where you can pay people to play games with you.
Yeah. And you said that you met Don through that. Is there any other YouTubers that you have met, or were there people that you watch or streamers that you watch that you've befriended or that you I guess look up to in a way, or not necessarily copy content, but when you're starting off in content creation, typically you're basing your content, loosely off of someone that you loved watching growing up, and you kind of do similar video ideas or editing styles just because you got to start somewhere. So is there someone that besides Don that you've met, or maybe he is your guy, or someone that you looked up to or watched and you were like, this is the type of content that I want to make?
Well, I mean, in terms of other people I've met, I met my good friend Boyar, who's also a YouTuber on EPAL. But in terms of people, I would say I kind of model what I want to do for content after. 39 Daff was like one of my favorite streamers to watch. So I feel like, I don't know, her and also Moist Critical. I love Moist. Oh, sorry. I love
No,
Moist Critical.
no, you're fine. Don't worry,
Fairly
don't worry,
friendly. Yeah.
don't worry.
I love
Okay,
Moist Critical.
yeah, I didn't watch a ton of Moist Critical, but I've heard countless people reference the content whenever it comes to what they're doing or love or
Brain
growing up. And
damage.
so I think it's also cool to have people sort of, build their content off of someone that they love. And, maybe one day you get to connect with them and make content with them as well. I don't know if Voice Critical is something that you've ever had communication with, but who knows?
Never. No.
Who knows? Down the
I
road.
wish. I wish.
Yeah, down the road, you never know. I mean, I through this, I've met some cool people. Obviously, I met you, but I'm good friends with Pooh Fesher and I don't know if you know who Subtris or Oma are, but they do like Zoom bombing and Omegle stuff.
Yeah.
Cool guys. And I think it's really cool as well
Tough.
when you're kind of talking about other YouTubers or two other YouTubers that they're pretty cool people. I mean, for the most part, from the people that I've connected with, you would think that, oh, they have all this money or all this fame, so they're gonna be super rude. But no, like they're literally just kind of like you and I. Like they're really cool people. And I've had so many people ask me because I've had like the most random people on my podcast. They're like, yo, like, how did you even meet this person? Or like, why is this person even on your show? And I'm like, listen, all you have to do is like message them. The worst that they can do, the absolute worst they can do is like open it and not respond, or they could open
Yeah.
it. I've had several people say no, like you just message them. Like there's
Yeah,
nothing
in
to it.
terms of like collaboration, when you're starting out, collaboration is one of the biggest things, and it's definitely the thing that I struggle with the most. So like for me, I love when people reach out to me and like, hey, would you want to play Minecraft together on a stream? Do you want to make a video together? Do you want to do this together? Even if that person is also just starting out, like it doesn't really matter to me because I understand that like I enjoy collaborating, but I'm
Yeah.
also very fearful to reach out. So I need to get better at
Yeah.
this. I'll take a note from you and just be like, you know what are they gonna say? No.
Yeah, exactly. Worst case scenario, they say no. When
Hi
I
there.
when I went to message you, I was like, oh, she's in a Dawn video. She does YouTube and streaming. Worst
Okay.
that she can do is I message her, and she's just like, no, that's weird. And I'm like, all right, well, on to the next person. Like
Yeah,
this is like
exactly.
worst case scenario, they just say no. But you got to start somewhere, and most people, not everyone, some people have done a really good job of building their names just by themselves or make content by themselves, but a lot of the times collaborations they work. Like don't be scared to reach out and say, hey, do you want to make this video? Do you want to do this? Because if you think about it, collaboration, even if you have 100 subscribers and someone else has 100 subscribers, if you guys post together, well, that's 200 people that are going to see it because
Yeah.
that's two different channels and you tag them. And so it's so cool that you have all those things and that you have those friends and a guy like Don to kind of reach out to. And I think he's what he's like 1.5 million subscribers, somewhere
Yeah,
around there.
somewhere around there. He's done really, really well in the past year. I know he's kind of slowed down with pumping out videos, but he's getting back into the groove of it.
Yeah, you just got to get it going. And even when you have someone like that, then they can kind of give you pointers behind the scenes. It's not all about just making
Yeah,
videos,
it's
but
not all about exposure. I think something important with collaborations is a lot of people are like, oh, if I could just have that one dream collaboration or dream raid or dream shout out from this really big streamer or YouTuber. But like you have to remember your content may not be ready for that
yeah,
large of an audience. Like when I first did a video with Dawn, there was tons of people coming into my stream. And I know that like my stream was not equipped for that many people to be there. I wasn't entertaining enough. I didn't have the staff. I didn't have the
yeah,
streaming skills. So like I think taking your growth period to get better at what you're doing is really important. Don't just like grind, actually try to learn about what you enjoy, what might work, what might not work. And you know, it's mostly about what you enjoy because
yeah.
that's what people will be able to tell most easily, I think.
Absolutely. And I've even had some cool insights, like when I've talked to a couple of my friends that I've had on the show, like behind the scenes, they were like, I asked them, well,
Hmm.
would you use to edit your videos? And I usually will always think of like Adobe Premiere, like that's the go-to, which I still think
Hmm.
this day it is. But a couple of them referencing, they're like, no, like, you should try out, oh boy,
DaVinci
Wondershare,
Resolve? Oh,
uh,
Wondershare. Ah, I know that one.
Wondershare Filmora. Yeah. Yeah.
I
They were
use
like,
DaVinci Resolve, which I find is really good. It's
they told
free.
me they told me I want to share for more. I was like, if this is what I want to do, I'm going to invest the money,
Yeah.
and so let's do it. And I did, and I've loved using it. And like you said, it's all about finding the niche. Like you just kind of you got to work through it. Like I have podcast episodes, I have like a couple of VR things, like a couple of gaming things. Like I don't think it's necessarily bad in the beginning to pump out all sorts of content, see what hits and what doesn't, and that's
Yeah.
sort of
I mean,
something.
on my channel, I've got crazy variety of stuff. I've got me playing horror games, I've got stream highlights, I've got me on Omegle, you know, I've got me cooking. Like there's like nothing on my channel is like, oh, let me go see, you know, like all of this same type of content. It's very much like all over the place. And while that's not like, you know, going to be very helpful for growth, it is very, very helpful for learning how to grow and learning
Yeah,
how to actually establish your niche. Because for me, I think because I had that initial really big push from collaborating with a really big YouTuber, I'm kind of like fumbling now and don't really know what my niche is, don't really know what I want to do. And I feel like I have like, you know, this exposure, but I don't know what to do with it.
Yeah, no, I feel you. I mean, I'd love to do gaming stuff, but I also bought like portable lavaliers to do like IRL content. I obviously have this green screen, so it's all about figuring it out. And I think the most important thing when it comes to this, obviously speaking from someone who has 100 subscribers right now, but it's like it takes time. Like my like Poofesher, when I had him on the show, he was like, dude, it took me like 10 to 12 years to get to 2 million subscribers. Like, yes, there can be certain people that if a couple of their videos are really popular, they blow up. But realistically, if you're gonna do this full time, like if I were to want to do this, what we're doing now, full time, and like this is where I
Yeah.
make my money, it might not be to like 2028. Like it just you
Yeah.
just got to
You
keep
can't be
consistently doing
counting
it.
on that one viral video, I guess,
No,
which a lot of people who do content creation and they're starting out, they have in their mind like, all right, I just gotta try to figure out how to make a video go viral and then I'll be set. Like, it's not about that. It's about building your base. Honestly, if you have like 5 videos that get 0 views, but all of those are good quality videos, that is better than trying to get a couple of videos that aren't that good, but have higher, you know, reach and may get to
yeah,
more people. Because then people are just gonna be like, what is, I don't really care enough about this to subscribe. I'm not gonna return for this. I might like it enough to like it, but I'm not gonna return for this.
yeah.
And then when you ultimately are able to start building an audience with a couple of reach tactics, you'll have that base of good, actually useful content that people can see, and people will respect you more for that, I think.
And then they'll watch a couple of your videos and be like, oh, this is entertaining. Let me go see what they were doing a year or 2 years ago. Like, was it
Yeah.
still like? And then that's how the views build up. Of course, speaking from someone who has no experience with that, so I'm just assuming, but I'm also going off of
Yeah.
what I've
No,
heard
you're
from
I think
people.
you're dead on. I mean, I don't have, a lot of experience in it. What I have is a very unique experience of like, um getting a stroke of luck and exposure from a friend and
Yeah,
kind of figuring out, okay, this is how I should be using it, this is how I should not be using it, and trying to maneuver that.
absolutely. And sometimes, to an extent, some of it is luck, and that just kind of happens.
Yeah.
Just kind of happens when it happens. Like sometimes you'll just get lucky with a video and it'll blow up, and you're like, I didn't even think that video was that good, but
Yeah.
people thought it was, so it blows up. Okay, so I guess sort of moving before I get to what your goals are and sort of the ultimate.
Cat.
It's
Dog.
it's
Cat
something that
dog.
I kind of want to ask about. Because I think that it's important because I'm a guy and I don't understand it at all. People always tell me they're like, oh, like you're not a girl, so you don't understand like what it's like to be kind of in content stuff. So for you, have you seen being like a female affect you in any negative way, or has it been harder for you? Like how has that part of your life sort of come into play when it comes to streaming? Because not I'm not saying that streaming and content creation is strictly for guys, because it's absolutely not, but it is a very heavily male dominated sort of field.
Yeah. Actually, I really appreciate that you recognize that, because usually when I get asked this sort of thing about being a female in content creation, people are like, "Oh, isn't it so much easier for you?" Because, yeah, because you can just be attractive and people will want to watch you. And I'm like, that's not how it works. Like, no one, there's so very many pretty girls on Twitch who people can go watch who are catering to that, who know they look good and who are, you know, showing off. Like, they do their makeup nice, they have nice outfits on, and like that's their niche, that's what they're doing. If that's not what you want to do as a female, I find it is a lot harder to garner and keep attention. Like, I have people pass through my stream who are like, wow, so pretty, like, are you single, like these sort of things, that that sort of audience tends to say. So you can kind of
Unfortunately.
tell, yeah, you can kind of tell the demographic they are.
Yeah.
But a lot of those people leave because that's not the sort of thing that I do. um and I often find that actually people will take me less seriously, or you know will dislike, won't take what I'm saying the same way that they would if a guy was saying it. It almost feels
Yeah.
like sometimes. And it's hard to explain that in a concrete way because obviously there's no alternate dimension I can look into where I'm a guy and I'm saying the same stuff and people are taking
Yeah.
it differently. But just based on experiences, and knowing the people that I pull from, and the sort of things that they're doing, I know that that sort of bias definitely has affected me in that way. Um, to where people are like, oh, well, I'm going to a female, right, on Twitch. I'm expecting there to be a certain type of content. When I get there and there's not that certain type of content, even if this is funny, even if this is entertaining, I'm not really interested. I'll just go watch a guy for that because that's what I'm used to,
Yeah.
right? So I feel like being a female who doesn't cater to that sort of thing can be a little bit more difficult.
Yeah, I see
Yeah.
what you're saying, but I mean that's even more respect to you because that means that you're like you want people to see you for like your content, your hard work, not just logging on. Oh, I think that she looks good, and so I'm going to just go stare at the screen and completely blank on everything that she
Yeah.
says. Like you want people to subscribe to you and follow you and hop onto your stream because they respect the content that you're putting out and
Yeah.
realizing, oh, like she's working hard for this. She isn't just dressing up and then just like, oh hi so and so, and read their name, and then like the guy freaks out and has a great weekend all because you
Yeah.
said you said his username.
I mean, yeah, you're explaining it well. And absolutely no shade to women who do that because they know their market and they're working it.
Yeah.
It's just it can be frustrating because first of all, I don't even know how to do that because that's just not something I'm inherently gifted with, that ability. And also just I find that I have a lot more enjoyment out of trying to share my personality and that mode of content more.
Yeah, yeah, no, that is for sure. And again, it's something that I bring up, and I feel like
Damage.
there's no easy transition. Like meaning like you know almost any which way that you word it, it's gonna kind of sound somewhat disrespectful. So I'm hoping to avoid that by the way that I
No,
worded it.
absolutely not. No, you're
Yeah,
good.
because I had someone else who came on and she does esports as well, and
Off, Pat.
I was like, I just want to ask
Get back in the kitchen.
like I'm a guy, so I literally don't know. Like I can't
Mm-hmm.
I can't like just like you said, you can't see an alternate universe where you're a guy. I can't see an alternate universe where I'm a girl and
Yeah.
picture like, oh, I wonder what it would be like. So I'm glad that you were able to kind of present that and say like, no, I want people to hop on and enjoy my content for what it is, but at the same time, like, you understand that because you're a girl, people are gonna hop on and say their things, even if it's literally just you sitting there like this, like like just sitting in the chair, not really caring. Like
Yeah.
that's sort of what it is.
Yeah. I'll be sitting here in sweatpants, big hoodie, covered in a blanket, and I'll still get people every so often who are like, being weird.
Yeah, I mean, you roll
But
with the
then they leave.
punches.
So it's not like that's actually the problem. The problem is more that people don't expect my content to be the sort of content that it is, I think.
And that was a horrible transition because my timer ran out on my first Zoom. So now we're back on another Zoom meeting. So that was probably one of the worst transitions you'll see. But yeah, just kind of going off of that and you sort of explaining that there's all sorts of content out there, but you want people to log on to your content for you and what you're making. With that being said, obviously, this is something that you love to do. This is something that you're looking to the future for. So for you, Beans, or I guess Beans on Toast, if you want to use your full proper name, what does the future hold for you, streaming wise, YouTube wise? Where do you see yourself going? What is the type of content that you kind of can tell people who might be listening to expect going forward? Like what does the future for Beans hold in 2023 as we're here a little bit into the new year?
Yeah. I mean, I really want to continue streaming and doing YouTube as long as people are willing to watch and willing to be in the community.
Yeah.
I mean, I really the thing that I enjoy most about content creation, and this is why I feel more specifically connected to streaming, is the community that's built around it. Like I really enjoy seeing, like, even before I start stream, like people in chat asking each other how they are, like talking with one another, seeing people interact in Discord. That is my like favorite part about doing any of this. So I definitely feel like there is less of a passion for YouTube, but in 2023, I want to get better at making videos, start to make content more specifically for YouTube, um, and start to put a little bit more passion into my YouTube because I feel like the passion is definitely there for Twitch. I love streaming. I love interacting with everyone there. Um,
You go
but
live how often? Like on in a
um,
7 day week, how often can people expect you
maybe
to be on?
3 or 4 days. It depends on schedules. When I'm in school, usually 2 to 3 days. When I'm out
Yeah.
of school, 3, 4, sometimes more.
Yeah. Got to focus on school, regardless of what you want to do. School's got to be priority number
Yeah,
one.
that definitely. If you're thinking about streaming, one thing I will say is try to start before you go to college because starting streaming in college will you up, man.
Yeah,
It is
yeah,
not. It is not the move. Trust me. It is. It can be a big commitment. It can definitely be a time sink as a hobby, but if you get out of it what you put into it, then I think it's definitely worth it.
and rightfully so, your study should come first, even if it's like I could see myself doing this full time, and when
Yeah.
I'm getting a degree in is irrelevant. Like you're in college, work hard, like get the degree. Don't just be like,
Mhm.
I'm here, but I see myself doing YouTube and streaming, so
Yeah.
I'm gonna get the
That's
like.
never
No,
guaranteed.
no, no, absolutely not. And any given moment, especially now, like YouTube can shut your channel down. We've seen it, like big, like multi-million subscribed channels, like shut down. You never
Mhm.
know, and it's something that you want to make sure you're being respectful with the stuff you're pointing out. But like you said, at any given moment, like your stream or your YouTube could get shut down, and they might not have a good reason. Like you might never know. They could just shut it
Yeah.
down.
I mean, the thing for me is even me as someone who is making my money from streaming for school right now, I'm definitely still prioritizing my schoolwork over that. If you don't have that option, maybe, you might want to put aside the streaming for school, because if you can't balance it, one of them is definitely more important than the other. Especially if you're not already making enough to sort of like, this is a career already. I would say it's still very, very important to have a backup, which a lot of people in content creation talk about. Like anyone in this sort of field knows, like you should always have a backup. Even people who have millions of subscribers, they have backups, they have certifications, they have jobs that they can go into,
Yeah.
things like that, because there's going to be months where, hey, maybe the ad revenue is starting to dip, maybe I need to go, get a side job so that I can still make rent, or I can still pay for the things that I need to pay for. I know a lot of people's like dream job is being a YouTuber, but saying, hey, instead of going to college, I'm going to spend my time and resources into putting my all into this. That's passion is great, but it's just not a good idea. And you could end up really getting messed up
Yeah.
by that decision.
And if you're not bringing in revenue, I mean, it could take years for you to build up revenue.
Yeah.
Even
Even
I
if
know
you're the best content creator in the world, it could take years for you to get the exposure that you need
for
to
sure.
make that kind of money.
And
Yeah.
I don't know him personally, but I don't know if you know. Do you know Burleasy at all? The YouTuber streamer.
I think so.
He's
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah, he's a pretty popular guy, but I know that like he went to college even while he was doing very well on YouTube. And Professor, who if you guys haven't listened to that episode, you should go listen to it. The guy is, if you watch his
The mensch
videos,
cuck.
he's very well spoken for the type of videos. Like I would highly recommend going back listening to Professor episode. But even while he was building up his channel to where it is today, he was working full time in construction. Like he was working a job. Like a lot of these
Hmm.
people, you would think, oh, they're just in their offices or their studios making content constantly, which is true. But also, what you don't see is behind the scenes of a 1 hour video, they might be working a full 8 hour shift during the day and then coming home and doing their work. Like,
Mm.
don't just throw school to the side, especially if you're in it and you're having help from your parents. Like, please
That's
don't
just a
throw,
middle
yeah,
finger to them. Yeah.
please don't throw school to the
Please.
side. Like, work hard on it. Like, you're there. Don't just throw it to the side of stream. But with that being said, at the same time, don't just throw streaming to the side. Like, if that's what you want to do, invest in it, but just be
Mhm.
smart with how you're investing in it. A lot
Yeah,
of
I
people
mean,
aren't.
we're not saying just like, yeah, if you want to do streaming, don't and do school instead.
Yeah.
It's more just like if you can strike that balance, absolutely go for it. But if you can't, that may be something you have to sacrifice.
And there's nothing wrong with the fact that you can't
Mhm.
balance it. Like, put your all into what you're doing. That's why
Yeah. Like you're
in
not gonna be able to do med school and be a full-time streamer at the same time. It's
no,
just not gonna happen.
no. And that's why in the fall, like this podcast sort of took a back seat because it was like I love doing it, but like I know that I need to be focused on school because I got a semester left. Like I'm not gonna throw away my GPA because I want to make 3 extra podcast episodes.
Yeah.
Like, it's not so. But yeah, is there anything else before we get going here that you kind of want to say, put out there? Anything about streaming, gaming, or maybe even like going back to the first conversation about Tourette's that you'd want
Yeah.
people to be aware of or talk about, or ways that people can kind of learn more, or any of the things that we've covered? Is there anything that you kind of want to put out there for people?
I mean, all of these sort of things are things I talk a lot about on my streams. So if you're interested in, those sort of questions, I have videos up answering questions like that. And I have streams where I answer questions like that. So there's a lot of, open-ended things that if you want more specifications on, you can just come and ask me. What I will say is I think it was really good that we hit on the point of definitely having a backup option. Content creation is a really, really fun thing. And I'm so glad that I get to do it at any level at all, let alone the level that I'm doing it at now, which I know it doesn't seem huge to a lot of people, but like to me, it's like, whoa, like that's kind of cool to me that I have anyone who watches me do stuff, you know? Yeah, I mean it's very possible. I think it seems really unattainable for a lot of people, but the more you learn, the more you can grow. And don't let things hold you back that you think might hold you back. You might assume something might hold you back if you have, you know, different things like we were talking about, like Tourette's, if you have a
Yeah.
facial deformity, autism, if you know, have a physical disability, or if you're deaf or mute or anything like that, it doesn't have to hold you back. You can work around it and let your personality shine through, or do whatever it is that you can offer, and there will be people who enjoy that. You just have to make it to them.
Yeah,
And that
yeah.
can be hard, but
Oh,
it's
for
very
sure.
possible.
You got to be willing to put yourself out there, but put yourself out there in a manner that is comfortable to you. But like,
Don't
it's really,
sacrifice yourself.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's really tough to word properly, but almost like go out of your comfort zone in like a comfortable way, which is like kind of weird to say, but
Mhm.
like, be willing to do stuff that maybe you're not sure about, but also in a way that, isn't going to make you freeze up. Like you said, like when you started, you were uncomfortable talking to people when you were gaming, or making videos, but you didn't show your face at first because you were worried about that, but you were willing to let me try this mic
Fish to
thing.
talk.
Like,
Yeah,
yeah,
fish to talk.
yeah,
Yeah, it
yeah,
could be, you can start with such simple things like that. Like it definitely, if you're like someone like how I was, where you're a kind of anxious person, but you're like, oh, streaming seems so fun. Starting off with just like making friends online is huge. Because if you have online friends, those are automatically like people that you can sit and stream with and, you know,
yeah.
have fun with and have a start off. And there you go. You've started streaming.
And even if it's like 5 people log on, well, that's 5 people. Like when
Yeah,
people
that's
when
enough
people
to
are
get affiliate. Like,
oh yeah, when
yeah.
people talk to me and they're like, oh, like I've put out like a couple game videos that were like small, and they're like, you got like 70 views. I'm like, all right, well,
That's 70
that's
views.
70 more
Yeah.
people than would see me if I didn't put a video out. And so like, you just got to start somewhere, and it probably makes people appreciate, especially those who made it, looking back, like, wow, like I so appreciate the way that I did it. Another streamer and YouTuber that I watch, Eddie VR. I don't know if you know him, but he's part of like
Mm.
this YouTube group, The Boys, and like he reacts to his old videos sometimes, and it's like it's probably so fun for them to look back and be like, wow, like if this was ever be a thing where I got a studio and I got people weekly, like if this ever grew
Yeah.
into anything, I'd look back and be like, oh, I was in my room with this green screen, like on Zoom making
Yeah.
stuff, and
Like
like,
with my
yeah,
dinky Amazon lights
yeah,
and my tiny webcam.
exactly. But it also, or at least it should, in my opinion, like make you really humble. Like it's like you understand that most people who are in this field, because YouTube is younger than I am, like that most people, they're figuring out as they go. Like this is something that almost every YouTuber who's made it big understands, that you start from nothing, because
Mhm.
you just grab a camera and start somewhere, and you shouldn't
Yeah.
let, like, the fear of, oh, people are going to say stuff, hold you back. Because if you like, let's be honest, if you want to do YouTube and content creation and judgment on small videos that hold you back, then you really don't want to get big, because the bigger you get, the larger the judgment gets. And so like you got to be able to handle it at the lower levels
Yeah.
before you get to those bigger levels.
Yeah. Like if I was at the level I'm at now with the mentality I had when I started, I would completely crumble and I would quit and delete all my videos and try to erase my existence from the internet, because it's hard to deal with. So hoping for that like magic, I guess, that some people sort of think is the only way to get big, it's not the blessing that you might think it is.
Yeah. And like we said, don't be afraid to put yourself out there, be comfortable in an uncomfortable way. Let's see, be respectful of others. That is like for sure. Like even if your content is like you making fun of other people, like be respectful about the way that you're
Yeah.
handling it, because I'm sure like off camera that they have conversations with people that they make fun of before. They might not everybody is a good person,
Yeah.
but like be respectful in the way that you're handling yourself. And I appreciate, like, even when I reach out to Beans to come
I
on,
told him to off.
I was
I
literally
did
like,
it. Sorry.
no, I was literally just like, hey, do you want to come on a podcast and just talk about your life? And you were like, yeah, sure. Like, just reach out. Like, worst case scenario, they say no. So yeah, as we head out, what are your socials? What are the official tags? Because I haven't really said them out loud. I'll edit them in down below you, and I'll also tag them in the description. But what are your, like, where can people find you on socials and know when you're streaming and all that?
Yeah, so most of my announcements and things like that are done in my Discord, which you can find from my Twitch channel. So my Twitch and my YouTube are both Beansontoasti, which is just beans on toast, all one word, and with an I at the end. And then my Instagram is Beansontoasti, but with an extra I. And then I think my Twitter is just Beansontoasti as well with the I. So yeah, that's where you can find me most places. If you just Google Beansontoasti, something will come up for me, and you can get to everywhere from there because I have everything linked together. Yeah, I mean, I'm most active on Instagram probably. So if you want to see a lot of me, you can follow me there. My Twitch is probably also the best place to follow me because I go live there a lot, and I'll be right there to answer anything you have to ask me. And yeah, also my YouTube would be the places to check out.
Yeah, and if you're gonna hop on her stream, please be respectful, guys. I mean, now that you listen to this episode, and if you found her through this episode, well, now you completely understand the story. So please,
so you won't have to come in and be like, "Why are you making that weird noise?"
But
exactly.
But like, hop on, watch. It's a variety thing. I mean, I've hopped on, you've gamed, I hopped on, you've been watching like horror videos. It's all over the place. Sometimes you're there, literally just chatting. Like, stop in, say hi, and if you're wanting to make content, just grab a camera and just make something, put it out there. Who cares? If you get 5 views, you get 5 views. Like,
5 more people.
Yeah, that's part of life. But thank you guys so much for joining me for this edition of the Barely Bushy Podcast. I am super excited to see what 2023 has in store now that I don't have to worry about school anymore. Hoping that, this can be a lot more consistent. I'm already reaching out to tons of people to have on. But I want to thank Beans again for her time and for coming on, and I'm looking forward to the next episode. Make sure you guys like, comment, subscribe, turn on the post notifications for me and for Beans and for Don, whose channel will be linked down below as well. Thanks for watching, and we will see you next time.